Welcome, everyone. So, are you absolutely ready to trade in that crushing workplace chaos and those constantly looming deadlines for a system that actually genuinely works? In this explainer, we're diving deep into the ultimate survival guide for task management and prioritization. We've pulled together the absolute best frameworks out there to help you stop just reacting to emergencies and start executing like a total pro. Let's get into it. Okay, let's dive into this agenda. It's a real macro to micro roadmap today. We'll start off by taming the task chaos and prioritizing your workload. From there, we'll look at defending your schedule, explore some task management tools, break down the anatomy of a perfect task, and finally, we'll bust the multitasking myth. All right, Section 1, Taming the Task Chaos. We all know that universal, incredibly anxiety-inducing feeling of workplace overload, right? Where every single request feels like a life or death emergency. Let's anchor this in a reality that might honestly give you a little bit of heartburn just thinking about it. Picture this. It's Monday morning at Tor Tech. You log on and boom, you have 12 open tasks, an absolutely critical report due at noon, and a major client email to send by 2 p.m. So what do you do first? Without a solid system, most of us just freeze. Or worse, we panic and start clicking around randomly, just kind of hoping the work miraculously does itself. And this brilliantly illustrates the two amateur traps that we professionals fall into when we don't have a framework. It basically comes down to reactive work versus comfort-seeking work. On the one hand, reactive work means you're just letting the loudest Slack ping win completely regardless of actual importance. On the other hand, comfort-seeking work is when you tackle the really easy stuff just to feel that quick, false sense of productivity. But let's be real here. Having an empty inbox is completely meaningless if you just blew right past your noon deadline. Moving on to Section 2, Prioritizing your workload. Real professional maturity means having a defensible, objective system to sequence your work. You can't just try to work harder or faster. Enter the Eisenhower matrix. It's like a giant sorting hat for your to-do list. This famous 2x2 grid maps out urgency against importance. Quadrant 1 is for urgent and important tasks. You do these right now. Quadrant 2 is important but not urgent. You schedule these. Quadrant 4, eliminate them entirely. Get rid of them. But listen, you have got to beware of the dangerous trap of Quadrant 3, urgent but not important. Just because someone taps your shoulder right this second doesn't mean it's actually a Quadrant 1 necessity. Delegate that or just mute the noise. Now, while the Eisenhower matrix handles your personal daily queue, let's contrast that for a second with the Moscow method. This stands for must have, should have, could have, and won't have. You use this specific framework when your team really needs to scope out project deliverables. Must-haves are your absolute, non-negotiable requirements for a project launch, while won't-haves explicitly prevent that dreaded scope creep. It's a totally different context from your daily triage, but it is just as essential for keeping the whole team aligned. Which brings us to Section 3, Defending your schedule. Look, it's fantastic to have a prioritized list. Great job. But it means absolutely nothing if you don't carve out the concrete time and reality to actually execute it. This is where time blocking comes in, assigning very specific start and end times on your calendar for prioritized tasks to fiercely protect your focus. So the crucial point is this: a calendared task is a firm commitment, while an uncalendared task sitting on a to-do list, well, that's often just a wish. If it's not blocked on the calendar, it is highly vulnerable. You literally must treat your work blocks with the exact same respect you give to meetings with other human beings. Think about it. If you wouldn't stand up a major client, don't stand up your own deep work. A really great tactic to protect this focus is to batch similar low cognitive tasks together in one block, stuff like answering standard emails. Above all, you have to forcefully protect your Quadrant 2 time blocks so your big, long-term goals don't get completely sidelined by today's tiny little fires. All right, Section 4, Task Management Tools. We are now shifting gears from your personal mental models over to the shared digital tools where modern teams actually track their collaborative work. There's a bunch out there, and each has a really unique design philosophy. Trello is highly visual with those simple Kanban boards. Asana is way more structured, great for complex dependencies. ClickUp gives you maximum customization, while Microsoft To Do is just a fantastic, lightweight option within that ecosystem. And then there's Notion, which acts as a super flexible workspace, combining your tasks right alongside your documents. You just need to figure out which glove fits your team's specific workflow. Now, when you look at these platforms, you'll generally choose between a board view, also known as a Kanban board, and a list view. Both are tracking the exact same data, but they serve totally different cognitive needs. Boards instantly answer the big question, where does everything stand right now, by letting you visualize the workflow stages. Lists, on the other hand, are strictly for answering what needs to happen soonest by organizing your tasks chronologically. Let's move to Zeeco and see how this builds a truly functional workflow. The foundational Kanban board uses just 3 basic columns: to do, in progress, and done. You simply drag cards from left to right. But hey, here is the absolutely critical rule. Done means fully complete, with absolutely 0 follow-up required. And if a task is stalled, flag it. It shouldn't just be sitting there pretending to be in progress for 2 straight weeks. Next up, Section 5, Anatomy of a Perfect Task. Okay, here is a rather harsh reality. A beautifully color-coded, gorgeous task board is completely and utterly useless if the actual tasks inside it lack clear accountability. I really want you to burn this quote into your memory. A task assigned to the team is a task assigned to no one. Single ownership is the absolute bedrock of accountability. If you want to make sure important tasks never fall through the cracks again, every single one must have exactly one named owner. No exceptions, guys. Let's build the anatomy of a professional task piece by piece. First, it needs an action-oriented title, say Draft Q3 Report, not just Report. Next, it needs that single assigned owner we just talked about. Add a firm due date to drive some urgency, a clear priority level, and a contextual description so the owner doesn't have to go hunting for basic information. Finally, an updated status. An incomplete task card just creates massive ambiguity, and ambiguity slows the entire team down. Finally, Section 6. The multitasking myth. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this staggering number right here, 20% to 40%. We've built this bulletproof organizational system today, but to protect it from breaking down under pressure, we have to talk about this. That 20 to 40% is the massive daily productivity loss caused by the cognitive cost of rapid task switching. What you probably think is multitasking is actually just your brain frantically reloading context every single time you flip between an email and a report. It completely, utterly destroys your focus. So how do you actually protect your focus when the requests just keep piling up? Well, you use this incredibly professional pushback script. I am working on X. Would you like me to prioritize this new request over that? Notice what you're doing here. You aren't flat out refusing the work. Instead, you are inviting management to make a collaborative, explicit choice about reprioritization. It is an incredibly empowering, polite way to say no professionally. Wow, we have covered a massive amount of ground in this explainer, moving from the sheer panic of a busy morning to a highly structured, fully defensible workflow. So I want to leave you with this provocative question. Armed with this completely bulletproof system, are you going to continue letting the loudest voice control your inbox? Or are you finally ready to take command of your workday? The choice is yours. See you next time.